Jungkook reveals his hidden feelings to Jimin on live set, and one confession changes everything in a silent studio forever. The red recording light was still on when Jungkook said, "I'm tired of pretending I don't love you." No one moved. The studio, built to swallow noise and return polished sound, suddenly became a chamber of held breath. Camera operators froze with their hands on expensive rigs. A producer halfway through sipping iced coffee forgot to swallow. Somewhere in the ceiling vents, air hissed like a startled animal. Jimin stood 3 feet away under the white glare of the key lights, his smile still half-formed from the joke he had been about to make. It remained there for one stunned second, then faded slowly, as if someone had dimmed it from inside him. Jungkook heard his own pulse louder than anything else. He had imagined this moment 1,000 ways: private rooftops, late-night car rides, empty hallways after rehearsals, whispered confessions in hotel rooms while rain tapped against glass. In every version there had been privacy, softness, control. Never this, never microphones clipped to their shirts, never 10 people staring, never the sharp smell of hot electronics and fresh makeup powder. But the truth had escaped him like blood from a reopened wound. Jimin blinked once, twice. His fingers tightened around the cue cards in his hand until the edges bent. "Cut," the director barked too late. No one listened. Jungkook wanted to gather the words back into his mouth, wanted to laugh and say it was a prank, a line, a misunderstanding, but he had spent too many years lying gracefully. The truth felt terrible and clean. "I didn't mean," he began. "You meant exactly that," Jimin said quietly. His voice was calm, but Jungkook knew him better than calm. He knew the tiny pause before each sentence meant Jimin was building walls brick by brick. He knew the slight lift of his chin meant he was refusing to show hurt. He knew the stillness in his shoulders meant a storm was already forming. The director rushed forward, whispering about damage control, privacy, schedules, statements. Jimin handed him the cue cards without looking. "We need 5 minutes," Jimin said. He walked toward the side door. Jungkook followed. The hallway beyond the studio was dim and cool, lined with framed posters and emergency lights. Their footsteps echoed on polished concrete. Somewhere far away, someone laughed, unaware that worlds had shifted nearby. Jimin pushed open the door to an unused rehearsal room. Mirrors lined one wall. The room smelled faintly of old wood, dust, and sweat trapped in memory. As soon as the door closed, Jimin turned. "Why now?" The question landed harder than anger. Jungkook opened his mouth, but the real answer was too large. "Because every time you smiled at someone else, I felt replaced. Because every year I waited, fear became heavier than hope. Because watching you act like you needed no one made me want to break every careful thing between us. Because I thought if I didn't speak today, I never would." Instead he said, "I couldn't keep doing this." Jimin laughed once, short and bitter. "Doing what, being my friend?" The word friend carried the edge of a knife. Jungkook dragged a hand through his hair. "Standing beside you and pretending that's enough." Jimin looked away toward the mirrors. Their reflections stood across from them like strangers in a parallel room. "You chose the worst possible moment." "I know. You humiliated me." "I know. You humiliated yourself too." A small, helpless smile almost touched Jungkook's mouth. "That too." Jimin's expression flickered. For 1 second, sympathy tried to appear. He killed it instantly. "You should have told me years ago." The sentence hollowed the room. Jungkook stared at him. Years ago. Jimin's jaw tightened. He had said more than intended. There were habits Jimin had when nervous, rubbing the side of his thumb, packing exactly 7 steps before turning, speaking in perfect composure while his eyes betrayed him. He was doing 2 of them now. "You knew," Jungkook whispered. "I suspected. And nothing." Jimin finally faced him fully, and Jungkook saw exhaustion there, old exhaustion, layered deep. "You think confession fixes time," Jimin said. "You think honesty arrives late and still deserves applause." "That's not fair." "No, fair would have been when I needed to hear it." Silence spread again, heavier than before. Jungkook remembered years of almosts, fingers brushing during choreography and lingering 1 second too long. Nights abroad when Jimin knocked on his hotel door just to talk because sleep would not come. The time Jimin had fallen asleep against his shoulder in a van, trusting and unaware of how still Jungkook forced himself to remain. The endless coded language of people too close and too afraid. When did you need to hear it? Jungkook asked. Jimin's eyes glistened, though no tears fell. When I thought I was impossible to love. The room seemed to tilt. Jimin had always looked untouchable to outsiders, elegant, precise, magnetic, but Jungkook knew the hidden rituals, the way Jimin checked mirrors not from vanity but from fear, the way compliments slid off him while criticism lodged like shrapnel, the way he apologized for taking space even while commanding every stage he stepped onto. Jungkook took one step forward. I never thought you were impossible. But you said nothing. I was scared. Of me. Of losing you. Jimin smiled sadly, and how did silence help with that? Jungkook had no defense. Outside the room, footsteps passed, then faded. The world continued with insulting normality. Jimin sank onto the bench near the mirrored wall. For the first time since the confession, he looked tired instead of angry. You know what my problem is? He asked. Jungkook remained standing. Tell me. I wanted this once. The words were soft, nearly swallowed by air. Jungkook's chest tightened so sharply he almost winced. I wanted you to say something, Jimin continued. Anything, a hint, a risk. I kept leaving doors open for you. Images flashed through Jungkook's mind. Invitations accepted then missed, messages answered too carefully, moments interrupted by cowardice disguised as patience. But eventually, Jimin said, you learned to close doors yourself. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling lights. I became good at being wanted publicly and unknown privately. It's efficient. That sounds lonely. It is. Jungkook crossed the room and sat beside him, leaving space between them measured in inches and history. I'm sorry, he said. Jimin exhaled, I know. No, I mean it in the ugly way, not the neat way people say it to move on. A faint smile touched Jimin's mouth. That does sound like you. Jungkook looked at his own hands. They were steady now, strangely enough. I watched you carry everyone, he said. I thought adding my feelings would be selfish. Then I got used to being silent. Then silence became who I was around you. Jimin listened without interruption. I don't expect anything, Jungkook added. I just couldn't let another year pass pretending. Jimin's shoulder brushed his accidentally, or maybe not. You always expect something, Jimin murmured. What? Even brave people confess because they hope. Jungkook let the truth stand between them. Yes, he said, I hoped. The rehearsal room lights hummed softly. Dust drifted through beams of white like slow snow. Jimin turned his head and studied him with unbearable closeness. You've changed, he said. So have you. I'm harder now. I noticed. And you. I'm tired of being afraid. That made Jimin laugh for real this time, warm and sudden. It transformed the room. There you are, Jungkook said before thinking. Jimin's laughter faded into something gentler. There you are, he echoed. The words carried years inside them. Then Jimin reached out and fixed Jungkook's collar mic, which had twisted sideways during the chaos. His fingers were cool against Jungkook's throat. Such a small gesture, so intimate it nearly undid him. You still let details unravel, Jimin said. You still fix them. Their eyes met. No dramatic music rose. No cameras captured the moment. Just two men in a dusty room, surrounded by mirrors that reflected every version they might have been. What happens now? Jungkook asked. Jimin considered. Now, he said, we go back out there. We survive the disaster you created. And after that? Jimin stood, smoothing invisible wrinkles from his clothes. After that, we stop speaking in riddles. He extended a hand. Jungkook looked at it, then took it. Jimin pulled him to his feet, closer than necessary. For a breath, neither moved away. There's one more thing, Jimin said. Jungkook's pulse leapt again. Jimin leaned in, lips near his ear. Voice barely above a whisper. You were wrong about one thing. Which thing? I wasn't impossible to love. Then he stepped back, opened the door, and walked into the bright corridor with the confidence of someone reclaiming his own story. Jungkook followed, heart pounding not with fear this time, but with the strange, terrifying shape of hope. The studio doors opened, and the silence outside was far more dangerous than the silence inside. Jungkook stepped out beside Jimin, expecting noise, questions, panic. Instead, every person in the hallway turned their heads at once and then pretended not to. Assistants suddenly became fascinated by clipboards. Stylists adjusted already perfect sleeves. A manager whispered too loudly into a phone. The air itself felt sharpened. Jimin kept walking. His posture was flawless, shoulders straight, expression calm, every inch the professional who could survive storms without wrinkling. Only Jungkook noticed the tiny tension in his jaw. "Say something," Jungkook murmured as they moved toward the main set. "I am," Jimin replied quietly. "You haven't spoken. I'm saying don't make this worse." They entered the studio again. The red light above the camera had been turned off, but the damage was still glowing in every face. Producers huddled near the monitor station like generals after losing a battle. One of them, Director Han, strode forward with the rigid smile of a man trying not to scream. "We need to talk, now." Jimin answered first, then talk. Han blinked. He was used to controlling rooms, schedules, people. Jimin's calm resistance unsettled him. "You two just created a media explosion." Jungkook folded his arms. "We created honesty. You created headlines." "Same thing sometimes," Jimin said. Han stared between them. Was it real? The question hung there, vulgar and practical. Jungkook stepped closer. "Does that affect your camera angles?" "It affects contracts." "It was real," Jimin said flatly. "Happy." Han cursed under his breath and rubbed his forehead. "You realize if this leaks before we issue a statement?" "It already leaked," said a young assistant from the corner, holding up a trembling phone. Everyone turned. On the screen was a shaky video clip from someone behind the set curtains. Jungkook's voice echoed through the tiny speaker. "I'm tired of pretending I don't love you." The assistant swallowed. "It's everywhere." Han looked physically ill. Jimin inhaled slowly, then exhaled through his nose. "Of course it is." Phones around the room began vibrating like insects. Jungkook felt adrenaline surge again, then let it be everywhere. Han rounded on him. "You think this is romantic? You think public opinion won't tear both of you apart by dinner?" Jungkook didn't flinch. "They've judged us for breathing before." "Not like this." Jimin's voice cut through the room like glass. "Enough." Everyone froze. He stepped toward Han, eyes cold and glittering. "You invited us here to sell chemistry," Jimin said. "You built teasers around tension, edited glances into trailers, fed rumors for ratings, packaged intimacy for profit. And now that reality interrupted your script, suddenly you're offended." No one moved. Han opened his mouth, then closed it. Jimin continued, quieter now, which made it worse. "If you want professionalism, start with your own industry." The room had no defense. Jungkook almost smiled despite everything. Jimin, angry, was terrifyingly beautiful. Han straightened his jacket. "Fine, we postpone filming." "No," Jimin said. Han frowned. "What?" "We finished today." Jungkook turned sharply. "Jimin." "We finish," Jimin repeated. "I'm not letting panic own the narrative." Han looked confused. "You're willing to go on camera after this?" Jimin glanced sideways at Jungkook. "That depends. Can he behave for 40 minutes? Jungkook let out a breathless laugh. "Probably not." "Then try." The set was reset in record time. Powder brushed across faces. Microphones reattached. Chairs aligned beneath warm lighting. Everything looked normal, which made it feel surreal. Jungkook sat beside Jimin at the interview table. Between them stood 2 glasses of water and 10 years of unresolved history. The host, Mina, entered with the expression of someone who knew she was walking into history and feared every second of it. "Are we actually doing this?" she whispered. Jimin smiled politely. "Unless you prefer to resign dramatically." She almost laughed. The cameras rolled. The red light came on. Mina began shakily. "Welcome back. We've had an unexpected pause." Jungkook leaned back. "That's one way to describe it." A few crew members snorted before catching themselves. Mina glanced at her cue cards, then abandoned them. I think everyone watching wants clarity. Jimin nodded, then asked clearly. She swallowed. What happened a few minutes ago? Jungkook answered immediately. I told the truth badly. Jimin turned to him. Accurate. And your response? Mina asked Jimin. Jimin held the camera's gaze. My response is that private feelings became public without warning. That sounds like a no, Mina said carefully. That sounds like none of your business, Jimin replied. Even Mina laughed then. Online comments were being projected silently onto a monitor for producers. Jungkook caught glimpses. Is this real? He said love. Jimin looks mad. No, he looks heartbroken. This is cinema. Mina regained composure. Do you care for each other beyond friendship? The room tightened again. Jungkook said yes. Jimin didn't answer. Mina pressed gently. Jimin. Jimin took his time. He lifted his glass, drank, set it down with precision. I care for him enough to be furious, he said. Jungkook stared at him. That's not an answer, Mina said. It's the only one she gets. Filming ended 20 minutes later in a blur of tension and sparks. Every glance between them would be dissected for months. Every pause would become theory. Every breath would be replayed. When the cameras finally died, Jimin stood immediately. Walk with me. He didn't wait. They moved through the backstage corridor and out into the parking structure below the building, where concrete pillars rose like cold trees. Rain hammered outside the open entrance, silver sheets in the night. Jimin stopped beside a black van. You embarrassed me again, he said. Jungkook's temper, strained all day, snapped back to life. Again. Yes, on camera this time. I thought you wanted honesty. I wanted respect. I gave you truth. You gave me timing so reckless it felt selfish. The word hit hard. Jungkook stepped closer. You think I did this for myself? I think part of you did. That's unfair. That doesn't make it false. Thunder rolled outside. Jungkook laughed once, angry and wounded. You always do this. Do what? Turn vulnerability into a crime scene. Jimin's eyes flashed, and you always arrive late expecting applause for bravery. The air between them crackled. Jungkook slammed a hand against the van door. I was terrified. And I was waiting. Their voices echoed through the structure. For a moment, both looked stunned by the rawness of it. Jimin spoke first, quieter now. Do you know what it was like? Wondering if I imagined everything. Wondering if every look meant nothing to you. Jungkook's anger drained, leaving pain. I thought if I said it, I'd lose you. You lost me anyway. Rainwater blew sideways into the garage, cold mist touching their faces. Jungkook whispered, then why are you still here? Jimin looked at him for a long time. Because losing you didn't work. The sentence nearly broke him. Jungkook reached for Jimin's wrist. Jimin let him. The contact was electric, simple, devastating. I don't know how to do this right, Jungkook admitted. That makes two of us. Tell me what you need. Jimin's throat moved as he swallowed. I need to know this isn't just intensity, that tomorrow you won't panic and retreat. I won't. You don't know that. I know this. Jungkook stepped closer until only inches remained. I know every room feels wrong when you're not in it. Jimin's breath caught. I know I've hated every version of silence that kept me from you. Closer still. I know if you walk away now, I'll deserve it. Jimin's hand rose slowly and gripped the front of Jungkook's jacket. You talk too much when desperate. And you get mean when scared. I'm always mean. No, Jungkook said softly, only when it matters. For the first time all night, Jimin's eyes softened completely. Then headlights swept across the garage. A car entered fast and stopped hard beside them. The passenger door flew open. Manager Seo stepped out, face pale. You both need to come now. Jimin released Jungkook instantly. What happened? Seo held up his phone. A new headline blazed across the screen. Confession video leaks full raw footage. Second clip shows private argument years ago. Jungkook's blood ran cold. Years ago. There had been only one argument worth hiding. Jimin looked at him in horror. No, Jimin whispered. But Seo nodded grimly. They found the rooftop footage. The drive back to headquarters felt like being transporting to an execution. Rain battered the windshield in violent bursts, city lights smearing across the glass like bleeding neon. No one spoke for the first 10 minutes. The only sounds were the wipers scraping back and forth, and the relentless vibration of phones receiving messages no one wanted to read. Jungkook sat in the back seat beside Jimin. They were close enough for their shoulders to touch if either moved an inch, yet the space between them felt crowded with ghosts. Manager Seo gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles blanched. The board is already there. Of course they are, Jimin muttered. How bad? Jungkook asked. Seo glanced at him in the mirror. Bad enough that legal is involved. Jungkook scoffed. For feelings. For leaked footage, breach of confidentiality, reputational risk, investor panic, public narrative control. Pick one. Jimin leaned his head back and closed his eyes. They're not panicking because of footage, he said quietly. They're panicking because they can't own it. No one disagreed. Jungkook looked sideways at him. What rooftop footage? Jimin opened his eyes but didn't turn. You don't remember. I remember too many rooftops. That one you should. There was something sharp beneath the calm, something old. The car descended into the underground garage of the company building. Security was doubled. Men in black coats waited by the elevator. Nobody smiled. As they stepped out, camera flashes exploded from the street level above, distant but vicious. Seo cursed, press already found out. Jimin started walking, then let them wait. The elevator ride to the top floor was suffocating. Mirrors on all sides reflected four tense faces from endless angles. Jungkook caught his own expression and barely recognized it. When the doors opened, the executive conference room stood ahead with its glass walls, lit like an operating theater. Inside sat 6 board members, 2 lawyers, Director Han, and the CEO himself. Chairman Lee did not rise when they entered. Sit. No greeting, no concern, just command. Jimin remained standing. I prefer to hear accusations on my feet. Lee's eyes narrowed, still dramatic. And you're still rude. Seo nearly choked. Jungkook pulled out a chair but did not sit either. Lee looked from one to the other. Wonderful, rebellion in stereo. The oldest board member slid a tablet across the table. Watch. The leaked rooftop clip began playing. Night wind, grainy security camera angle. A younger Jungkook and Jimin stood on the company rooftop 3 years earlier, both in rehearsal clothes, both visibly furious. Jungkook's younger voice crackled through the speakers. Why do you keep pushing me away? Jimin's reply came instantly. Because you only come close when no one can see. The room went still. Jungkook stared at the screen, memory slamming back into him. He had forgotten nothing, he had buried it. You know how I feel, younger Jungkook said. No, Jimin snapped. I know how you feel at midnight in private and how you act at noon in public. Those are different men. The footage ended there. No kiss, no confession, just pain. Chairman Lee folded his hands. This creates a narrative of hidden internal relationships, emotional instability, and possible misconduct. Jungkook laughed in disbelief. Misconduct. Lee's voice hardened. Do not test me. Jimin stepped forward. No, let's test something else. Say clearly what bothers you. Lee met his gaze. You compromised the brand. There it is, Jimin said softly. Not concern, commerce. You signed contracts. We did not sign away humanity. You signed to maintain trust. With fans, Jungkook cut in, not with cowards in suits. The lawyers exchanged alarmed looks. Lee rose slowly. You are emotional, understandable, but business survives by discipline. Jimin's smile was terrifyingly polite. Business survives because artists give it blood. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Lee pointed at the screen. 3 years of unresolved personal conflict affecting schedules, behavior, decision-making. 3 years, Jungkook snapped. You had footage for 3 years. No one answered quickly enough. Jungkook's voice deepened. You kept surveillance footage of us. A lawyer cleared his throat. Security archives are standard. Then why leak now? Jimin asked. That landed. Chairman Lee did not blink. We did not leak anything. Liar, Jimin said. Gasps flickered around the table. Seo whispered, Jimin. But Jimin was beyond caution now. You use rumors when convenient. You deny them when expensive. You monitored private moments, stored them, weaponized them, and now expect obedience. Lee's expression finally cracked with anger. Be careful. Make me. The room detonated into overlapping voices. Lawyers warning liability. Board members demanding restraint. CEO begging everyone to calm down. Jungkook said nothing. He was staring at the paused image on the screen, younger Jimin on that rooftop, eyes bright with fury and hurt. He remembered the wind, the cold metal railing, the way Jimin had looked like someone asking to be chosen one final time. And he had failed. Lee slammed a hand on the table. Enough. Effective immediately, both of you will suspend all appearances until we issue coordinated statements. No, Jungkook said. Lee turned, excuse me. No. The word was steady. Jungkook stepped beside Jimin. You don't get to freeze our lives because you lost control of gossip. Lee's voice sharpened. I can terminate contracts. You can try. The board members shifted uneasily. Threats were easier when targets trembled. Jimin glanced at Jungkook, surprised in something else, proud perhaps. Lee changed tactics. Very well, then answer this publicly. Are you in a relationship? Silent. A trap perfect and cruel. If they said no, they denied everything and each other. If they said yes, they surrendered privacy to headlines forever. Jungkook looked at Jimin. Jimin looked back. Years of unfinished conversations passed in one glance. We're not answering that tonight, Jimin said. Lee smiled thinly, then ambiguity will answer for you. Jungkook stepped forward so suddenly chairs scraped. You know what's good? Everyone froze. You want clarity, here, some. He turned not to Lee, but to the entire room. I loved him then, I love him now. Whether he wants me or not is his choice, whether you profit from it is not. The room became airless. CEO whispered a prayer. One board member actually dropped a pen. Jimin's face went completely unreadable. Lee's voice came out low and dangerous. You reckless child. No, Jungkook said, just done being managed like a product. Lee pointed to the door, get out. Jungkook almost welcomed it. But before he could move, Jimin spoke. No. Every head turned. Jimin walked to the front of the table and stood where presentations were usually given. Calm returned to him like armor. You asked if we are in a relationship, he said. The truthful answer is complicated. Lee sneered, spare us poetry. You mistake complexity for weakness. Jimin's eyes flicked once to Jungkook, then back. He loved me badly. I cared for him silently. We both made mistakes professionally and personally. If that scandalizes you, then your standards are fiction. No one interrupted. As for now, Jimin continued, voice softer, I don't know what we are unfinished. Jungkook's chest tightened. But I know what we are not, Jimin's gaze sharpened, we are not yours. The sentence struck harder than any shout. Chairman Lee sat slowly, fury carefully hidden. Leave, he said. This time they did. They walked out together into the midnight hallway, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Seo hurried after them. What have you done? He hissed. Jimin kept moving, something overdue. You may have ended everything. Jungkook looked at him. Maybe we ended the wrong thing. Seo stopped chasing. They entered the private practice wing, empty at this hour. Mirrors lined the corridor, reflecting them in endless pairs. Jimin finally turned into Studio C and shut the door behind them. Darkness. Then he switched on only one lamp near the wall. Soft amber light filled the room. No cameras, no executives, no audience. Just them. Jungkook exhaled shakily. You called us unfinished. We are. Do you want us finished? Jimin leaned against the mirror, studying him. You always ask the largest question first. I'm tired of small ones. Jimin's lips twitched. Then he said, why didn't you come after me that night on the rooftop? There it was. The wound under everything. Jungkook swallowed, because after you walked away, Lee was waiting by the stairwell. Jimin's expression changed instantly. What? He told me if I kept blurring lines with you, you'd be the one who paid for it. Fewer solos, delayed projects, quiet punishment. Jimin stared, color draining from his face. He said you were already under scrutiny for being distracting. Jimin whispered, he told me you said I was becoming a problem. Jungkook felt the floor disappear beneath him. No. Yes. For a long moment neither breathed. Then understanding arrived like lightning. He lied to both of us, Jungkook said. Jimin's eyes filled with something far more dangerous than tears. Rage. 3 years stolen by manipulation. 3 years of distance built by someone else's hands. Jungkook stepped closer. Jimin. Jimin grabbed the front of his shirt and pulled him in hard. Their faces were inches apart. I hated you, Jimin whispered, voice shaking. I hated you for months. I know. I wanted to forget you. I know. I couldn't. Neither moved. Then Jimin kissed him. Not softly. It was anger, grief, hunger, and 3 lost years colliding at once. Jungkook staggered back into the mirror with the force of it, hands finding Jimin's waist as if they had always belonged there. Jimin kissed him again harder, breath trembling, fingers twisted in fabric like he was holding onto something falling. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing unevenly. Jimin rested his forehead against Jungkook. I still haven't forgiven you, he whispered. Jungkook's hands tightened gently at his sides. Then don't, he said, just don't leave. The studio door handle rattled violently. Both turned. Someone outside was trying to get in. Then a voice shouted through the wood. Open this now. Press found the security archive server. Jimin's eyes widened. Seo's voice cracked again from outside. There are more videos. Door shook again under the force of pounding fists. Open it now. Jimin stepped back from Jungkook so fast it felt like another kind of violence. His lips were still flushed, his breathing uneven, but his face rebuilt itself into composure within seconds. It was one of his cruelest talents, turning chaos into elegance before anyone could witness the wreckage. Jungkook hated how much he admired it. He crossed the room and yanked the door open. Manager Seo nearly stumbled inside, drenched in sweat despite the cold hallway. 2 security staff stood behind him, pale and tense. We need to move, Seo said. Now. Jimin wiped a thumb across his mouth once, subtle and devastating. What happened? Seo held up his phone with trembling fingers. A private forum page glowed on the screen, then another, then news alerts, then clips. Security archive dump trends worldwide. Hidden camera footage surfaces. Unreleased practice room arguments. Late-night hallway encounters. Speculation explodes over secret relationship. Jungkook's stomach dropped. How much leaked? Seo swallowed too much. He swiped to another clip. Jungkook and Jimin in a rehearsal room 2 years ago. Jimin sitting alone on the floor after midnight, head bowed. Jungkook entering quietly with a towel and bottled water. No audio, just Jungkook draping the towel over Jimin's shoulders and kneeling in front of him. Another clip. Hotel corridor abroad, Jimin outside Jungkook's door at 3:14 a.m., hesitating before knocking. Another. Backstage after an award show, Jungkook reaching instinctively for Jimin's wrist in the dark. Another. Rooftop fragments. Another. Jimin's face turned white with fury. They archived our lives. CEO nodded once. Jungkook's voice dropped low. Who had access? Security Division, Legal, Executive Admin. Lay. We don't know. We know, Jimin said coldly. His calm was gone now. In its place stood something sharper. He walked past them into the hallway. CEO grabbed his arm. Where are you going? To end this. You can't storm the executive floor right now. Watch me. Jungkook caught Jimin's other wrist. Wait. Jimin turned with a glare dangerous enough to cut steel. Let go. Not until you breathe. Don't tell me to breathe. Then scream first. The hallway went silent. Jimin stared at him, chest rising hard. Then he laughed once, disbelieving and bitter. You kiss me for 30 seconds and think you can manage me. Jungkook stepped closer. No, I think I know when you're about to burn everything. Maybe it should burn. Maybe, but not while they're steering the fire. That hit. Jimin's jaw flexed. He looked away. CEO took the chance. There's a private exit downstairs. We can get you both to a safe place until legal responds. No hiding, Jimin said. It's not hiding, it's strategy. It's hiding in expensive language. Jungkook almost smiled despite the tension. CEO groaned. Why are both of you like this? Compatible damage, Jimin muttered. Jungkook heard it and couldn't stop the laugh that escaped him. Jimin shot him a look. Don't enjoy this. I'm enjoying that you're funny when furious. I'm considering murder. Still funny. For 1 second Jimin's mouth twitched, then the fury returned. They took the service elevator down. The descent felt endless. Metal walls, fluorescent hum, everyone trapped with adrenaline and secrets. Jungkook stood beside Jimin close enough to feel heat radiating from him. Neither mentioned the kiss. That silence was louder than any confession. When the doors opened to the underground garage, 3 black SUVs waited. Then headlights flooded the concrete entrance. A swarm of reporters had somehow breached the lower gate. Cameras rushed forward, security shouted, microphones thrust through gaps. Jungkook, is it true you confessed live? Jimin, did you reject him? Were you secretly together for years? Did the company cover up a relationship? Who liked the videos? Flashes detonated across the garage. CEO cursed violently, back. Security formed a wall, but the reporters pressed harder. Jimin straightened. No, CEO warned, don't say anything. Jimin stepped forward anyway. He had that look now, the one that preceded legendary performances and catastrophic decisions. A microphone nearly hit his chin. Jimin, were the leaked videos real? Yes, he said. The garage froze. CEO made a sound like a dying engine. Another reporter shouted, so you admit it? I admit those videos are real. I admit they were private. I admit someone violated us. Phones lifted higher. What about Jungkook's confession? Jimin glanced sideways at Jungkook, then back. That was real too. The crowd erupted. Questions became screams. Do you love him? Are you together? Did executives manipulate you? Were fans deceived? Jungkook stepped beside Jimin. He took the nearest microphone and said, you want scandal because it's easier than truth. Silence rippled outward. The truth is 2 people were filmed without consent. The truth is privacy was traded like currency. The truth is some of you care more about romance than abuse. Even reporters looked unsettled. Jimin watched him with unreadable eyes. A female journalist near the front spoke more softly than the rest. Then tell us the truth you want known. Jungkook inhaled. That I loved someone and got scared, that fear wastes years, that power profits from silence. He handed the microphone back. No one spoke for a beat. Then Chairman Lee's voice cut across the garage. That will be enough. Everyone turned. He stood near the elevator doors with 2 lawyers and 6 security guards, immaculate as ever. Jimin's expression became glacial. Lee walked forward slowly. You are worsening the situation. You mean exposing it, Jimin replied. Lee ignored him and addressed the cameras. The leaked materials are illegally obtained and heavily misrepresented. Internal review is underway. Jungkook laughed. You mean internal erasure? Lee's gaze snapped to him. Careful. No, Jimin said quietly, you should be. He took a step toward Lee. Did you tell him I called him a problem? Lee did not answer. Jimin's voice sharpened. Did you tell me he wanted distance? Still nothing. The reporters smelled blood. Chairman Lee, did management interfere in personal relationships? Were artists monitored? Did you manipulate them? Lee's mask finally cracked. You are employees, he said to Jimin and Jungkook. You confuse privilege with freedom. Jimin laughed softly, and it was terrifying. There he is. Lee continued, louder now. Everything you have came through discipline, structure, sacrifice. Jungkook stepped in front of Jimin before he could launch himself verbally or physically. No, Jungkook said. Everything we have came from work, you just invoiced it. A murmur rolled through the reporters. Lee pointed at Jungkook. You are emotional and naive. And you are obsolete. Seo closed his eyes like a man awaiting impact. It came fast. Lee lunged 1 step forward, not enough to strike but enough to threaten. Security moved. Reporters screamed. Jimin shoved past Jungkook and got directly in Lee's face. Touch him, Jimin said softly, and I'll destroy you with a smile. No one doubted him. Lee stared at Jimin, then seemed to remember cameras were everywhere. He stepped back. Cowardice regained its posture. Both of you are suspended pending investigation. Jungkook shrugged, then investigate. Jimin smiled beautifully. Start with your server logs. The lawyers suddenly whispered to Lee with urgent panic. One of them showed him a phone. His face changed. What? Seo asked. The lawyer looked sick. There's another leak. Everyone checked screens. This time it wasn't video. It was documents. Contracts, internal memos, private notes. Performance delays recommended for non-compliant behavior. Media strategy plans exploiting shipping rumors for engagement. And one line highlighted everywhere. Separate Park Jimin and Jun Jungkook appearances for emotional dependency risk. The garage exploded. Jimin went still in the most dangerous way possible. Jungkook read the line twice, then a third time. Dependency risk. They had turned pain into paperwork. He looked at Jimin. Jimin looked back, eyes shining not with tears, but fury so deep it looked ancient. I'm going to ruin him, Jimin whispered. Jungkook believed him. Then from behind the reporters, another voice rang out. Get out of the way. The crowd parted. A familiar figure strode into the garage, hood thrown back, face set with anger. Taehyung. He walked straight to them, glanced at Jimin's swollen lips, glanced at Jungkook's expression, then at Lee. Oh, Taehyung said coldly, so I missed everything except the war. He turned to Jimin. Did you finally kiss him? Jimin blinked. That's your first question. It tells me what side we're on. Jungkook nearly choked. Taehyung faced the cameras. For the record, he said, management lies professionally. The reporters screamed louder than before. Lee looked like he might collapse. Then another elevator dinged open. More footsteps. More familiar voices approaching. And Sia whispered in horror, "No, not all of them." Elevator doors slid open with a metallic chime that sounded absurdly cheerful for the moment it announced. Then they stepped out. Namjoon first, tall and composed, coat half-buttoned, eyes sharp behind calm. Yoongi followed with both hands in his pockets and the expression of a man already disappointed in everyone. Hosok came next, jaw tight despite the brightness he usually carried like sunlight. Jin emerged muttering under his breath, expensive hair slightly windblown. Last came Taehyung's echoing grin of pure trouble from across the garage, because he had somehow doubled back just to enter dramatically again through the side stairwell. The reporters lost their minds. Flashes burst like machine gun fire, security shouted useless instructions, phones lifted higher. Chairman Lee looked as if fate had become personal. Namjoon walked straight to Jungkook and Jimin, ignoring every microphone. "You two okay?" Jimin answered first, "No." "Good," Yoongi said, "means you're conscious." Jungkook nearly laughed from sheer nerves. Lee stepped forward, "This is unauthorized." Yoongi turned his head slowly, "Your face is unauthorized." Several reporters gasped, then immediately typed faster. Hosok rubbed his forehead, "Can we not make this trend under comedy?" "It already is," Jin said, checking his phone. "There are edits with dramatic violin." Taehyung appeared beside Jimin again like an uninvited spirit. "One has slow-motion rain. Nice jawline, by the way." Jimin stared at him, "Why are you like this?" "Genetics." Namjoon finally faced Lei. "We saw the lakes." Lee straightened, "Then you understand why containment is necessary." "No," Namjoon said calmly, "we understand why accountability is." That single word changed the air. Lee scoffed, "You think mob outrage governs corporations?" Yoongi replied without blinking, "No, evidence does." He pulled a folded sheet from his pocket and tossed it onto a nearby car hood. It was a printed memo. Lee recognized it instantly. His face hardened. Jungkook stepped closer. "What is it?" Yoongi looked at him, "A draft plan from 2 years ago." Jimin picked it up and read. His expression turned lethal. The page outlined a publicity strategy: encourage emotional distance between specific members to refresh fan narratives and increase speculation cycles. Specific members. Park Jimin, Jun Jungkook. Jimin read it twice, then looked at Lee. "You monetized confusion." Lee's voice stayed controlled, unapproved draft language. "Liar," Taehyung said cheerfully. Namjoon held out a hand, "Jimin." Jimin gave him the paper before he could tear it in half. Reporters surged forward. "Chairman Lei, did you separate members intentionally? Were relationships manipulated for marketing? Is this exploitation?" Lee signaled security, "Remove press." No one moved quickly enough. Because Jin had stepped in front of the guards. He smiled pleasantly. "Try touching a journalist during a scandal, see how that goes." Hosok muttered, "Hyung. I'm being strategic. You're enjoying this. Both can happen." Jungkook turned to Jimin, voice lower. "Did you know they were doing this?" Jimin didn't answer immediately. "Then I suspected pressure, not architecture." There was hurt beneath the anger now, deep hurt. Jungkook moved closer. "Look at me." Jimin resisted. "Look at me." He did. "I should have fought harder," Jungkook said. Jimin's throat moved. "Yes." The honesty strung and healed at once. "I know," Jungkook whispered. Before more could be said, a reporter shouted, "Jimin, did you kiss Jungkook tonight?" Half the garage inhaled. Taehyung whispered, "Great question." Jimin deadpanned, "Be silent." The reporter repeated louder, "Did you kiss him?" Jimin's eyes flicked to Jungkook's mouth, then away. That tiny glance became a nuclear event. Phones screamed with notifications. Yoongi sighed, congratulations, eyeline scandal. Lee snapped, enough of this circus. Namjoon's calm finally cooled into steel. No, he said, enough of you speaking as if people belong to you. Lee glared, you all owe this company everything. Jin laughed so hard he had to bend slightly. Oh, that's offensive and historically inaccurate. Hosok stepped forward now, Sunshin replaced by something sharper. We owe years of labor, injuries, sleep deprivation, scrutiny and loyalty. We paid already. Taehyung added with interest. The reporters were no longer asking questions, they were witnessing an execution. Lee changed tactics again. If you continue publicly opposing management, contracts can be frozen, projects delayed, legal action pursued. Yoongi shrugged, you keep saying punishments like we're 12. Namjoon's voice was soft, threats work best before trust is gone. Lee looked around and realized it. No one near him stood with conviction anymore, even his lawyers looked eager to evaporate. Then Jimin walked forward. No dramatic gestures, no raised voice. That made it worse. When I was younger, he said, I thought survival meant pleasing power, smile correctly, work harder, be grateful louder, bleed elegantly. The garage fell silent. But fear trains obedience until you mistake it for character. He stopped an arm's length from Lee. You taught many of us fear. His eyes sharpened. Tonight you learn what happens when it expires. Even Jungkook felt chills. Lee tried one last smile, and what exactly can you do? Jimin smiled back. It was devastating. Tell the truth attractively. The reporters erupted. Questions flew in all directions. Security lost control completely. Seo grabbed Namjoon's sleeve. We need extraction now. Namjoon nodded once. Basement corridor. Seo blinked. How do you know that route? I've been escaping things for years. They moved as a unit through the chaos. Security tried to follow. Reporters tried harder. Jungkook kept close to Jimin, one hand at the small of his back guiding him through the crush. The touch lasted 3 seconds. It felt louder than all the cameras. They reached a restricted corridor and slammed the steel door behind them. Sound became muffled thunder. Everyone exhaled at once. Concrete walls, fluorescent lights, breathing. Then Taehyung grinned, so you kissed. Jimin covered his face with one hand. I regret surviving. Jungkook said, technically he kissed me. Oh my god, Hosok groaned. Yoongi leaned against the wall. Never say technically about kissing again. Jin pointed at Jungkook. Details matter, continue. Namjoon pinched the bridge of his nose. Can we prioritize the institutional collapse first? Taehyung nodded solemnly, after details. Jimin looked at Jungkook. Say one more word and I'll end you. Jungkook's mouth curved. You already started me. The corridor exploded with shouting. Hosok screamed into his hands. Jin collapsed laughing against the wall. Yoongi muttered, disgusting. Taehyung applauded wildly. Even Namjoon lost composure long enough to laugh once. Jimin stared at Jungkook in horrified disbelief. Then, against all logic, he laughed too. It came sudden and bright and helpless. Everyone went quiet, because none of them had heard that sound from him in a long time. Jungkook looked at him like a starving man seeing sunlight. Jimin noticed. The laughter faded. Something gentler replaced it. Then Namjoon's phone rang. He checked the screen and swore. What? He looked up slowly. The board just suspended Chairman Lei. Silence. Taehyung blinked, that was fast. Yoongi held out his own phone, not just that. He turned the screen. Emergency shareholder statement. Independent investigation opened. Interim leadership appointed. Chairman Lee denied building access, effective immediately. Jin whistled, predators really do molt quickly. Seo sagged against the wall with relief. Maybe we survive this. No, Yoongi said, now it gets harder. He was right, because Jungkook's phone buzzed with an unknown number. Then Jimin did too. Then Namjoon's. Then everyone. Same message. Private meeting, penthouse level, come alone if you want the full archive. No signature. No number trace. Just one attachment. A still image from unseen footage. Jungkook opened it. It showed Jimin crying in a dark room years ago. And Jungkook standing outside the door, walking away. No one spoke for several seconds. The fluorescent lights hummed above them, cold and indifferent, while 7 grown men stared at their phones as if the screens had turned poisonous. Jungkook felt the blood drain from his face. The image was grainy, monochrome, time-stamped 4 years earlier. A narrow hallway outside a dressing room. Jimin inside, collapsed on the floor with his face hidden in his arms. Jungkook outside the door, hand half raised toward the handle. Then walking away. Jungkook whispered, no. Jimin's voice came out sharp enough to cut skin. You left. He looked up. That hurt more than anger would have. I didn't know you were crying, Jungkook said immediately. You were at the door. I know. And you left. I know. Taehyung took one careful step backward. This is above my pay grade emotionally. Yoongi muttered, everything is. Jimin's eyes never left Jungkook. Why? The corridor seemed to narrow. Jungkook searched memory through panic and shame. Backstage after an awards rehearsal. Too many schedules, too many fights. A closed door. A muffled sound inside he had mistaken for someone talking on the phone. Then a text. Chairman Lee wants you now. Then footsteps, then cowardice dressed as urgency. I thought you wanted to be alone, Jungkook said. Jimin laughed once, brittle and disbelieving. Amazing. That's the truth. No, Jimin said quietly, that's the version least painful to you. The words hit hard because they were partly true. Jungkook stepped forward. I was stupid. You were absent. I was scared of making everything worse. You specialized in that. Namjoon moved between them slightly, not blocking, just softening impact. We don't know who sent this, he said. That matters. Jimin's jaw tightened, so does history. Seo checked his own phone again. Penthouse level access is executive only. Yoongi looked up, then either someone inside wants leverage or someone wants blood. Taehyung tilted his head, could be both, stylishly. Hosok rubbed his temples, please don't describe blackmail as stylish. Jin exhaled, we're not splitting up. The phone message had said come alone. No one is going alone, Namjoon agreed. Jimin finally tore his gaze from Jungkook. I'm going. Jungkook answered instantly, then I'm going too. I didn't ask. Good, saves time. Jimin glared, you don't get to follow guilt around like it's devotion. Jungkook stepped closer, voice low, maybe not, I'm still coming. For a moment they stood almost chest to chest again, sparks and unfinished things passing silently between them. Then Jimin turned away first. Fine. Taehyung clapped once, great, toxic teamwork. They moved through the restricted corridor toward the private elevator reserved for executives. Seo argued the whole way about liability, security, public optics, criminal exposure, and probable death. No one listened. The elevator doors opened with polished gold trim, an offensive luxury. Yoongi looked inside. Nothing says exploitation like brushed brass. They entered. The ride upward was smooth and silent. City lights rose beyond the glass rear wall as the elevator climbed through the building's upper spine. Jungkook stood beside Jimin again. Neither touched. Neither moved away. Finally Jungkook said quietly, I should have opened the door. Jimin kept his eyes ahead. Yes. I would now. Jimin swallowed once, that doesn't help then. I know. A beat passed. Then softer, Jimin said, it helps now. Jungkook looked at him sharply. But Jimin had already rebuilt the wall. The elevator opened onto the penthouse level. A long hallway of dark marble, museum lighting, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. At the far end stood double doors slightly ajar. No guards. No staff. Too quiet. Namjoon gestured, "Stay together." They approached. Inside was the executive lounge. Expensive leather, abstract art, shelves of awards, a bar no one used honestly. One wall was a giant screen already turned on. And seated alone in a chair near the windows was Director Han. He rose slowly, hands visible. "You came." Taehyung groaned, "Oh, disappointing." Jimin's voice went ice cold. "You sent those messages." Han nodded. CO exploded. "Are you insane?" "Probably," Han said. Jungkook stepped forward. "You leaked the archives." "No." "Then start speaking quickly." Han looked older tonight, stripped of production swagger. His tie loosened, eyes ringed with exhaustion. "I didn't leak them," he said. "I copied them months ago because I knew someday someone would." Yoongi folded his arms. Paranoid integrity, rare breed. Han ignored him. The server breach tonight wasn't random. Chairman Lee ordered deletions after the live confession. Someone in IT panicked and dumped everything first. Namjoon narrowed his eyes. "Why call us here?" Han picked up a remote. The giant screen changed. Folders. Hundreds of folders. Dates, projects, security feeds, internal memos. A private archive of years. Jimin went still. Han's voice lowered, "Because this doesn't stop at scandal. There are things in here that can bury people, and things that can break you." Jungkook's fists clenched, "Then delete it." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because copies already exist." The room darkened further somehow. Han clicked another file. A video opened. Training dorm hallway, 6 years earlier. Jungkook younger, exhausted, entering frame with a split lip after practice. Jimin followed seconds later carrying ice wrapped in cloth. Jimin sat Jungkook down on the floor and pressed the ice gently to his mouth while scolding him. No audio. But tenderness glowed even in silence. Taehyung sighed, "That one's annoyingly romantic." Jimin looked away. Han clicked another. Hospital corridor. Jimin asleep in a chair after an injury scare. Jungkook arriving at dawn, covering him with his own jacket. Another. Foreign hotel rooftop. Jimin laughing into Jungkook's shoulder, while both thought no cameras were near. Another. Backstage darkness. Their foreheads touching for 2 seconds before walking opposite directions. Jungkook could barely breathe. "These weren't scandals," Han said quietly, "they were lives." "Then why keep them?" Hosok demanded. Han's face twisted. "Because people above me wanted leverage, behavioral maps, emotional dependencies, predictive management." Jimin's voice was almost a whisper. "They studied us." Han nodded. "Especially you too." Rage flashed across every face. Jungkook lunged first. He crossed the room and slammed Han against the wall before anyone could stop him. "You watched us suffer." Security instinct in Namjoon moved fast. He grabbed Jungkook's shoulder. "Jungkook." Han coughed, hands raised. "I never used it." "Oh, you kept it." "I hated it." Jungkook shoved him harder. "That doesn't cleanse you." Jimin stepped close enough that Han had to see him. "Did you ever intervene?" Han looked at him with miserable honesty. "Twice." "When?" "The rooftop lie and the project separation order. Both times I was overruled." Jimin's eyes flickered. Jungkook released Han abruptly. He stepped back, breathing hard. Han straightened shakily. "There's more you need to know." "No," Jimin said, "I've heard enough." "You haven't." Han opened one final file. Audio only. Date stamped 1 year ago. Chairman Lee's voice clear as glass. "Keep them apart publicly. Tension retains market value. Resolution kills engagement." Another voice asked, what if they reconcile privately? Lee answered without hesitation. Then create misunderstandings. The room went feral. Taehyung hurled a crystal coaster across the room. It shattered against the bar. Hosok swore viciously. Jin sat down slowly like his legs, no longer trusted the floor. Namjoon's face emptied into dangerous calm. Yoongi just said, I'll destroy him musically. Jimin didn't move. Jungkook looked at him and saw something terrifying, not tears, not rage. Grief. Years of it. Jungkook crossed the room carefully, as if approaching a wounded animal. Jimin. Jimin stepped back. Don't. It wasn't real distance, Jungkook said. It was engineered. Jimin laughed softly, hollow. No, the distance was real, we lived it. He turned away toward the city windows. All those nights I thought you didn't choose me. Jungkook's voice broke, I wanted to. But you didn't. The truth landed between them again. Jimin pressed a hand to the glass, city lights scattered beneath his palm. I don't know which hurts more, he said quietly, that they manipulated us, or that they only could because we were already afraid. No one in the room spoke. Then Han's phone rang. He checked it and went pale. What? Namjoon asked. Han looked up slowly. Chairman Lee is downstairs. CEO cursed, how? He used private access. Han's next words chilled everyone. And he brought the emergency legal team. Jungkook frowned, so. Han swallowed. So he intends to seize every device in this room, and make all of you sign silence agreements tonight. Then the penthouse doors behind them slammed open. The double doors crashed against the walls with a thunderous bang. Chairman Lee entered like a man, still pretending the world obeyed him. Behind him came 4 lawyers in dark suits, 2 private security officers, and the company's chief legal advisor carrying a silver briefcase as if it contained state secrets. Lee's coat was immaculate. His expression had recovered its old authority. Only his eyes betrayed strain. He stopped when he saw everyone assembled. All 7 of them. Han by the screen. The archives still glowing behind him. For the first time that night, Lee looked genuinely cornered. Then he smiled. Excellent, he said, saves time. Yoongi muttered, I miss when villains had shame. Lee ignored him. This meeting is now privileged corporate counsel. He gestured to the lawyers. All unauthorized persons will surrender devices immediately. Taehyung laughed so loudly it echoed off the marble. You entered a hostage scene with stationery. Jin added bold aesthetic choice. The legal advisor opened the silver briefcase and began placing documents on the table. Non-disclosure agreements. Emergency confidentiality orders. Temporary compensation guarantees. CEO stared in disbelief. You brought payouts. Lee corrected him. Stability packages. Hosok scoffed. That sounds like bribery wearing perfume. Lee's gaze locked onto Jimin and Jungkook. You two, especially, would be wise to cooperate. Jungkook stepped forward, or what? Lee's voice hardened. Or the archive becomes public in full contextless fragments. Every private moment, every weakness, every mistake. Silence struck the room. Even Taehyung stopped smiling. Jimin's jaw flexed once. You're threatening revenge porn made of memory, he said quietly. Lee spread his hands. I'm offering protection. No, Namjoon said, calm as winter. You're offering continued abuse under nicer nouns. Lee turned to him. You've always mistaken intelligence for power. Namjoon answered, and you've always mistaken power for permanence. The room tightened. Lee pointed at the documents. Signed, devices surrendered, statements coordinated, we contain this. Yoongi looked at the stack. Then he walked over, picked up the top contract, scanned one paragraph and laughed. This indemnifies you personally. He held it up for the room. You're not saving the company, you're saving yourself. The lawyers shifted uncomfortably. Lee snapped, give me that. Yoongi tore the document neatly in half. The sound was shockingly loud. Then he let the pieces fall. One lawyer gasped like witnessing sacrilege. Taehyung applauded again. Art. Lee's face reddened. Security. The two private guards moved forward. Jungkook stepped between them and the others without thinking. Jimin moved beside him instantly. No hesitation. The guards slowed. Because this was no longer a corporate room. It was a battlefield with cameras, somewhere outside, and consequences everywhere. Lee pointed at Han. You betrayed chain of command. Han's voice shook but held. You destroyed it first. Lee sneered. You were useful because you knew your place. Han flinched. Jimin's eyes turned glacial. There it is, the language of cowards. Lee ignored him and faced the room. You think public sympathy lasts. It doesn't. Outrage burns fast, careers burn longer. Jin tilted his head. You rehearsed that in the mirror, didn't you? Hosok muttered, Hyung. I'm helping morale. Jungkook looked at the screen behind Han. The archive folders glowed like wounds. Then a thought hit him. Why are you so desperate for devices? He asked. Lee didn't answer. Jungkook took one step closer. You already know copies exist. Still no answer. Namjoon's eyes narrowed. There's something else. Han looked suddenly terrified. Jimin turned to him. What didn't you say? Han swallowed hard. There's a second archive. The room erupted. Lee barked, quiet. Han spoke faster. Private recordings never entered the official server. Lee kept select files separately. Sia whispered, no. What files? Jimin demanded. Han's eyes flicked to Jungkook, then away. Personal leverage files. Jungkook's stomach dropped. Lee strode toward Han. Enough. Namjoon intercepted him with a single step. Try it. Lee stopped. For the first time in years, he had nowhere to direct authority that would obey. Jimin's voice was low and deadly. What files? Han looked at him with miserable honesty. Confessions, arguments, mental health breakdowns, intimate footage, anything useful. The penthouse seemed to lose oxygen. Jungkook felt rage rise, so hot it became cold. Where? Lee said nothing. Jimin repeated, sharper now. Where? Lee finally smiled. In a vault you'll never touch. Taehyung lunged first. Not enough to strike, but enough to send lawyers scattering backward in panic. You grotesque old man. Security grabbed Taehyung. Hosok immediately pried one hand off him with surprising force. Don't touch him. Chaos burst open. Shouting. Chairs overturned. Documents scattered. CO yelling about lawsuits. Jin pulling Taehyung backward by the collar while insulting three people elegantly. Yoongi filming everything on his phone with terrifying calm. Namjoon restraining one guard with nothing but presence and leverage. In the middle of it, Jimin walked straight toward Lei. Too calm. That calm was dangerous. Jungkook followed instantly. Jimin stopped inches away from the chairman. For years, Jimin said softly, I thought discipline meant enduring humiliation quietly. Lee held his stare. You are replaceable, he replied. Jimin smiled. So are tyrants. Then Jimin took the silver briefcase from the table and hurled it through the penthouse window. Glass exploded outward in a glittering storm. Wind roared into the room. Everyone froze. Papers lifted into the air like frantic birds. The briefcase vanished into the night. Even Lee staggered backward in shock. Taehyung whispered reverently, that was magnificent. Jimin stood framed by shattered city lights, hair whipping in the wind, breathing hard. No more contracts tonight. Reporters below must have heard the crash, because distant screams and camera flashes erupted from the street. Lee recovered enough to snarl, "You insane little." Jungkook shoved him. Not hard enough to injure. Hard enough to humiliate. Lee stumbled into one of his own lawyers. The room gasped. Jungkook's voice shook with fury. "You kept our pain in a vault." Lee straightened, humiliated beyond language. "You just ended yourself." "No," Jungkook said. "You did that when you confused control with ownership." Then alarms began blaring. The broken window had triggered building security. Red emergency lights started pulsing through the penthouse. Everything became surreal, faces flashing crimson, sirens wailing, wind tearing papers across the floor. Han shouted over the noise. "The private vault uses biometric lockdown during alarms." Yoongi looked up sharply, meaning if we reach it now, it seals open for emergency retrieval. Lee spun toward Han, "Traitor." Han pointed toward the private hallway beyond the bar. There. Without discussion, everyone moved. Lee tried to block them. Namjoon and Jin each caught one of his arms and gently, but firmly set him aside like inconvenient furniture. Taehyung grinned respectfully. They sprinted down the private corridor. Red lights flashed. Sirens screamed. At the end stood a steel door, sliding halfway open. Vault access. Lee was behind them now, shouting threats no one heard. Han reached the panel. Inside, hurry. The vault room was smaller than expected. Climate controlled. Shelves of drives. Paper files. Locked drawers. A monitor counting down emergency seal closure. 0042. Yoongi whistled, paranoia chic. Jimin moved straight to the central cabinet. Jungkook grabbed drives by the handful. Namjoon photographed labels. Hosok and Jin emptied drawers. Taehyung found a folder marked behavioral dependency assets. He held it up in disgust. "I hate everyone." Lee reached the doorway. "Stop them." But the guards hesitated. Cameras from outside were already flooding the hallway, witnesses everywhere. No one wanted to be the man tackling global celebrities inside a panic-lit vault. 0018. Jimin opened the central cabinet. Inside lay several black encrypted drives. One labeled simply JM/JK. He went still. Jungkook saw it and felt sick. Jimin lifted the drive with shaking fingers. Lee's composure finally shattered. "Put that down." 0009. Jimin turned slowly. "Why us?" Lee's answer came raw, stripped of polish. "Because unresolved longing is profitable." The whole room recoiled. Jungkook lunged. This time no one stopped him. He slammed Lee into the vault wall. Years of rage in one movement. "You stole years." Lee gasped, stunned. Jimin grabbed Jungkook's wrist. "Enough." Jungkook was breathing hard enough to shake. Jimin held his gaze. "Not for him." 0003. They ran. The steel door thundered, shut behind them just as the final guard stumbled clear. The corridor shook with the seal. Everyone stood panting beneath red lights. Jimin still held the black drive, labeled JM/JK. The alarms kept screaming. Then he looked at Jungkook, eyes bright with fear and something softer. "If we open this," he said, voice barely audible under the sirens, "we may never forgive what's inside." The sirens kept screaming. Red light washed over their faces in violent pulses, turning everyone into fragments of shadow and blood. Papers still drifted through the corridor from the shattered penthouse window. Somewhere below, security teams were climbing. Somewhere outside, cameras were multiplying. And in Jimin's hand, the black drive seemed heavier than metal should allow. No one reached for it. No one joked. Even Taehyung had gone silent. Jungkook looked at the label again. JM/JK. 2 initials reduced to an asset. 2 lives filed as leverage. Jimin's fingers tightened around the drive. We need somewhere private. Yoongi snorted darkly. Tonight, in this building. Han pointed toward the old executive screening room down the West Hall. Soundproof, no active cameras. I disabled them years ago. Jin raised an eyebrow. You keep revealing crimes like party tricks. Han accepted the insult. Fair. They moved fast. The screening room door was hidden behind walnut panels and opened into darkness, rows of leather seats facing a massive screen. It smelled faintly of dust, old carpet, and expensive neglect. Han locked the door behind them. Outside, alarms still wailed faintly through the walls. Inside, only breathing. Jimin stood near the projection desk and placed the drive on it like something dangerous enough to bite. No one touches it, he said. Taehyung lifted both hands. I wasn't going to, it looks cursed. Namjoon stepped forward. We decide together. Jungkook never took his eyes off Jimin. Open it. Jimin's head snapped toward him. You don't know what you're asking. I know exactly. You say that because guilt makes you brave. And fear makes you cruel. The room tensed instantly. Hosok muttered, we are back. Jimin stepped closer to Jungkook. You think pain automatically grants honesty? No, Jungkook shot back, but secrets already ruined enough. Jimin's voice lowered, sharper, and if there's footage in there of moments I never consented to relive. Then we face it together. Don't say together like it's easy. I'm saying it because it's late. That landed hard. Jimin stared at him, chest rising quickly. You don't get to arrive now and talk like devotion erases absence. Jungkook stepped forward too. They were inches apart again, heat replacing oxygen. You don't get to punish me forever because I failed once. Once. The word exploded from Jimin. Once, he repeated, laughing without humor. You left at doors, in hallways, in conversations, in daylight, in every place that required courage. Jungkook took it like a blow. Then tell me why you kissed me. The room froze. Jimin's eyes widened with fury and hurt. Because I was angry. Liar. Because I was overwhelmed. Liar. Because I wanted to hurt you. Liar. Jimin shoved him hard in the chest. Because I still wanted you, he shouted. Silence hit like impact. Even the distant alarms seemed to disappear. Jimin looked horrified at his own confession. Jungkook didn't move. His voice, when it came, was rough and quiet. I know. Jimin's eyes shone with sudden tears he hated having. No, he whispered, you don't. He turned away sharply. Jungkook reached instinctively, fingers brushing Jimin's wrist. Jimin stopped but didn't turn. You don't know, he said, softer now, what it cost me to keep wanting someone who kept choosing fear. Jungkook's hand fell. The pain in his face was so naked that Jin looked away. Namjoon stepped in before the room shattered further. We open the drive, he said calmly, not to reopen wounds, to end whoever weaponized them. Yoongi nodded, forensics later, emotions now are unreliable. Taehyung frowned, you say that while standing in a room full of dramatic weather. It's called perspective. Han inserted the drive into the projection console. The screen flickered. Encrypted folders appeared. Dates spanning 6 years. Subfolders titled Monitoring Notes, Schedule Leverage, Emotional Risk, Public Narrative Opportunities. Hosok made a disgusted sound. Han clicked one file. A spreadsheet opened. Columns ranking members by influence, compliance, volatility. Rows of notes. Park Jimin, high public appeal, sensitive to perceived rejection, use praise selectively. Jun Jungkook, protective instincts exploitable, responsive to guilt pressure. Jungkook felt physically sick. They profiled us like animals, Hosok said. Yoongi's jaw hardened. No, like investments. Han opened another folder. Audio transcripts. Fragments of private conversations captured through dressing room bugs, hallway mics, rehearsal cams. Jin swore quietly. Taehyung stopped smiling entirely. Then Han found the folder marked JMJKDRECTIVS. Jimin closed his eyes once. Open it, he said. The first file loaded. Video. A backstage corridor 3 years ago. Jimin waiting alone beside stacked equipment, glancing repeatedly toward a side entrance. Timestamp showed 11:47 p.m. He was dressed for an after-event dinner. Beautiful, nervous, trying not to look nervous. Jungkook's heart clenched. I remember this night, Jimin said flatly. The screen showed another angle. Jungkook approaching from the far hall. Then Chairman Lei intercepting him. No audio, but clear body language. Lee speaking fast. Jungkook looking conflicted. Then turning away. On the first camera angle, Jimin kept waiting. 5 minutes. 10. Then he smiled at a passing staff member, as if nothing mattered, and walked off alone. Jungkook stared at the screen in horror. I thought you changed your mind, he said. Jimin laughed softly, devastated. I waited 30 minutes. Another file. Rooftop argument, full audio this time. The one partially leaked earlier. Jimin, you only come close when no one can see. Jungkook, because every time I try publicly, they punish you. Jimin froze. On screen, younger Jimin froze too. You never heard that part, Jungkook asked. Jimin shook his head slowly. The leaked version had cut there. The video continued. Jungkook on screen, I'd rather they hurt me. Jimin on screen, voice breaking, that's not noble, it's still choosing for me. The room stood motionless. Years of misunderstanding rearranged themselves in real time. Jimin covered his mouth. Han clicked another file. A transcript memo attached to the rooftop date. Escalated attachment observed. Recommend separate schedules for 6 weeks. Emotional dependency may reduce brand flexibility. Taehyung kicked a chair across the room. It smashed into the wall. No one stopped me, he said calmly. Yoongi patted his shoulder. Later. Another file. The dressing room hallway image from earlier. Jimin inside crying after receiving solo project delays. Jungkook outside the door. Then Lee approaching Jungkook from behind camera frame, placing a hand on his shoulder and steering him away while speaking. There's no audio. Jungkook staggered backward from the screen. He told me you asked not to see me. Jimin turned slowly. What? He said you needed space, that seeing me would make it worse. Jimin's face crumpled with rage and grief. I asked for you. The words shattered something ancient. Jungkook crossed the room before thought could intervene. Jimin met him halfway. They collided into each other with more force than grace, grabbing shoulders, breathless, furious, relieved. Jungkook's voice cracked near Jimin's ear. I'm sorry. Jimin hit his chest once with a closed fist. You idiot. I know. Again. You absolute idiot. I know. Then Jimin kissed him. This time there was no anger in it. Only hunger starved by years. The room collectively reacted in chaos. Taehyung screamed. Jin shouted, finally. Hosok covered his face laughing. Yoongi muttered, disgusting sequel. Namjoon sat down heavily, as if justice had exhausted him. They broke apart only when breathing demanded it. Jimin kept his forehead against Jungkook. I still hate parts of you, he whispered. Keep them, Jungkook whispered back, just keep me too. Jimin laughed through tears. Then Han's laptop pinged. Everyone turned. A live news alert filled the screen. Chairman Lee detained for illegal surveillance allegations. The room erupted again. CO nearly fainted with relief. But another notification arrived instantly after. Anonymous source releases final package at midnight. Countdown 000958. Han's face drained. There's another archive out there. Jungkook looked at the timer. What's in it? Han whispered, I don't know. Jimin wiped his face, straightened, and took Jungkook's hand openly for the first time in front of everyone. Then he looked at the screen. Whatever it is, he said coldly, we end it tonight. The countdown glowed across the giant screen like a second heartbeat. 000912. No one in the room sat anymore. The air had changed. The panic was still there, but something stronger had entered with it, clarity. Years of manipulation had depended on confusion, secrecy, hesitation. Those were gone now. Jimin still held Jungkook's hand. He had not noticed at first. Then he had. And he did not let go. Jungkook looked down at their fingers entwined, then back at him with an expression so open it made Jimin's chest ache. Taehyung wiped imaginary tears. I suffered for years and this is how I'm repaid, public tenderness. Be quiet, Jimin said automatically. You sound happier. I'm about to commit violence. Radiant. Yoongi dragged a chair toward the console and sat backward in it. Can we focus on the blackmail apocalypse? Han was already typing furiously through the system. The anonymous source routed through multiple mirrors, he said. When the timer ends, files auto-publish to media servers worldwide. Namjoon crossed his arms. Can it be stopped? Maybe redirected. Meaning? Han swallowed. If we gain root access to the release package, we can replace what uploads. Jin blinked. You're saying we can hijack the blackmail? I'm saying we have 6 minutes to perform cybercrime ethically. Hosok sighed. This night had range. Jungkook stepped closer to the screen. What do you need? Han looked at him. Authorization keys. From who? Han hesitated. Then everyone answered at once. Lee. The room groaned. CO, who had been on 3 phones simultaneously, looked up. He's in custody downstairs with investigators. Taehyung grinned. Perfect, let's bother him. 5 minutes later, they were back in the executive corridor. The alarms had stopped, leaving only distant footsteps and the low thunder of media crowds outside. Security teams moved nervously through the building, uncertain who was in charge now. Chairman Lee sat in a private conference room under supervision by 2 investigators. His tie was gone. His hair no longer obeyed him. It was the first human thing about him anyone had seen. He looked up as they entered. Then his eyes fell to Jimin and Jungkook's joined hands. For the first time, he seemed to understand he had lost completely. Jimin smiled softly. Painful visual. Lee's jaw tightened. Namjoon placed a printed form on the table. We need the release credentials. Lee leaned back. No. Yoongi sat across from him. Try again with wisdom. No. Jungkook stepped forward. You built years of suffering for leverage. People know now. Lee's expression hardened. People know noise they forget. Jimin moved beside Jungkook. Maybe, but we won't. Lee looked at him. You think love makes you powerful. Jimin's smile vanished. No, truth does. He leaned forward, voice low and lethal. And the truth is you were never important enough to ruin us. You were only in the way. Something in Lee's face cracked. He turned to Jungkook. You could have been untouchable. Jungkook answered without hesitation. I'd rather be touched. Taehyung made a strangled sound of delight in the background. Jin slapped a hand over his own mouth. Even one investigator coughed to hide laughter. Lee looked suddenly old. Fools, he whispered. Maybe, Jimin said, but free. He straightened. Last chance. Lee stared at them all, then at the glass wall beyond which cameras flashed from the street below. The era of private threats was over. Slowly, with visible hatred, he recited the credentials. Han typed them in from a secure tablet. Accepted. They ran. Back to the screening room. Back to the countdown. 000143. Han's fingers flew across the keyboard. I'm in. Can you see the package? Namjoon asked. Han's face changed. Yes. What is it? Han swallowed. A final compilation, edited to imply secret affairs, internal favoritism, breakdowns, betrayal, designed to poison everyone. Yoongi nodded grimly, of course. Jimin stepped beside Han. Delete it. Han shook his head, deleting triggers auto-release backups. Then replace it, Jungkook said. With what? Han asked. Silence. The timer dropped. 000108. Then Hosok said quietly, with the truth. Everyone turned. He looked at them, eyes bright. Not statements, not legal language, us. Namjoon understood first. Yes. Jin grinned, oh, that's elegant. Taehyung was already grabbing a camera from a shelf. I was born for sincerity. Yoongi muttered, nightmare sentence. They moved instantly. The screening room lights came on full. Han connected the camera feed. One take. No edits. No script. 000049. They stood together in front of the giant blank screen. 7 men who had survived too much. Jungkook and Jimin side by side, shoulders touching. Namjoon nodded to the lens. Record. Taehyung behind camera whispered dramatically, cinema. Namjoon began. If you're watching this, someone tried to sell you lies using pieces of our lives. Jin continued. They took private moments and called them strategy. Hosok stepped forward. They used pressure and fear where trust should have lived. Yoongi's voice was calm and cutting. They counted on silence. Taehyung swung around and jumped into frame mid-sentence. Unfortunately for them, we allowed. Even in crisis, laughter broke the tension. Then Namjoon looked to Jimin and Jungkook. Jimin inhaled slowly. For years, cameras had captured his perfection. Now they captured his truth. I was hurt, he said. I was manipulated. I was afraid. He glanced at Jungkook. And I loved badly too, through pride, through silence, through pretending distance meant safety. Jungkook's eyes shone. Then he faced the lens. I loved through fear. I let other people decide what courage cost. That is my regret. He reached for Jimin's hand again. No hesitation this time. I don't regret this. Jimin squeezed once. The room was so quiet that everyone heard it. Namjoon ended simply. We are not products, we are people. Whatever comes next, it belongs to us. Han hit upload. 000003. 000002. 000001. Release complete. No one moved. Then every phone in the room erupted at once. Notifications. Messages. Global trends. Support flooding in. News networks replacing scandal banners with the new video. Commentary turning. Narrative broken. Seo looked at his screen and sat down abruptly. You did it. Yoongi corrected him, we did. Hours later, dawn began to stain the city pale gold. The building had emptied into lawyers, investigators, statements, consequences. Chairman Lee was gone under escort, boards were restructuring, servers were being seized. For the first time in years, no one was directing them where to stand. They ended up on the rooftop. The same rooftop where misunderstandings had once bloomed like poison. Wind moved gently now. The city below was waking. The others kept respectful distance near the stairwell, pretending not to watch while very obviously watching. Jimin stood at the railing. Jungkook joined him. For a moment neither spoke. Then Jimin said, "You really are dramatic. You kissed me twice. That was stress. And once was anger. The second was." Jimin's ears pinked slightly. Annoying observation. Jungkook smiled. Then it faded. "I can't get back the years." Jimin looked out over the city. "No, I would if I could." "I know." Another pause. Then Jimin turned to face him fully. "You don't get the years back." His voice was steady, soft. "You get what you do next." Jungkook's breath caught. "Is that permission?" he asked. "It's a challenge." Jungkook stepped closer. "I'm good with challenges. You were terrible with this one." "Fair." Jimin's smile came slowly, sunrise bright and real. Then he took Jungkook by the collar and kissed him a third time. No anger. No audience that mattered. No fear. Behind them, Taehyung screamed so loudly birds fled the roof. Jin shouted, "I knew it." Yoongi groaned, "Disgusting trilogy." Hosok was laughing too hard to stand. Namjoon simply looked at the sky and said, "Finally." Jimin pulled back, forehead resting against Jungkook. "We'll still fight," he murmured. "I know. I'm still complicated. I know. I'm still a little angry." Jungkook smiled. "Keep everything." Jimin studied him for one long heartbeat. Then he smiled too. Below them, the city moved into morning. Above them, the sky opened clean and wide. And for the first time, nothing stood between them except the future.